Now, moving swiftly on, we're on to part 2 of the evening.
Okay, part 2 shorter, or at least my part of part 2 shorter. Danilo's also going to be back up here in a second doing a few demos. So this is used to be day 2 of reinvent, now it's day 4 because we start on Monday, so we start on Wednesday, so every year the show got a little bit longer. And this is Werner's keynote. And if you didn't watch the video of this, and it's up on YouTube now, I'd say watch it. There's a few very interesting characteristics about this video, about this keynote. The first is all of the technical speakers were women that Werner invited to the stage, which is the first time I've ever seen that in a keynote of this type or from any other major vendor, which I think is really excellent. The second thing is at the end of it, something happens on the stage. Okay, I won't spoil it, but I'll just say watch it. Okay, there's a live event incorporated into the keynote, which includes instrumentation of some activity which takes place. It's pretty interesting to watch. Okay, so I would say watch the video, YouTube/Amazon Web Services, and you'll find the video there. It's really, really, really worth taking a look at. What did he announce? He only really announced 3 services, so there weren't a lot of announcements in this keynote this time around. But the first thing that he announced is something called AWS Cloud9, which I think you're going to show. Okay, this is a web-based IDE, so a development environment that enables developers to access a fully featured IDE over the web and collaborate live inside the same IDE. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Danilo to quickly show you this. You want to do that now?
Because I also do the demo with the serverless stuff. So
okay, right, I'll do it a little bit later. Okay, fine. So that's the first thing. And what was shown here was a really cool feature of remote virtual pair programming, where you had 2 developers working concurrently on the same code base in different locations, and they were able to collaborate with each other in the same way that you might collaborate inside a shared document editing environment, but working on code in that way. Actually really, really cool. Second thing has already been trailed, Alexa for Business. So this is taking the smart assistant functionality and features that are available inside the Amazon Echo and bringing them into the enterprise environment. So literally saying to a device on your desk, what's coming up on my diary today, and having integration with your Exchange environment to pull back your upcoming appointments, or walking into a conference room and saying, connect me to the meeting, and it will look up the calendar of what's scheduled for that room right now, and it will automatically control the AV infrastructure video conferencing unit that is in the room to connect you into whatever video conference that room is supposed to be in at that point in time. Or integrated specialty skills that might have been developed just for your organization, like update my call record, I just got off the phone with Joe. Could be a customized skill that you have in a legal environment that might match up the timing of your call, your billing system, plus your contacts to produce a record and inject it into a system just by control of your voice. Okay. It also solves some of the challenges that have been present for customers that have tried to use the Echo in large-scale environments previously. So mass device provisioning, for example, the management of private skill repositories that are specific to an organization, together with governance and control that allows you to specify which physical devices can access which skills. Also, voice profiles. That means that if Danilo walks into my office, not detecting his Italian accent at all, but detecting the print of his voice, the pattern of his voice, he could be denied access to skills that only I'm authorized to use, just on the basis of him not having my Yorkshire accent, let's say. So it's a really interesting service. Yeah.
Is this all associated with a single account? Or?
So it's associated with a single AWS account, and then you can register large numbers of physical Echo devices into that account. Employees can also register devices at home into the corporate account if you give them the rights to do so. So you have separation and control. You can admit external devices or only provision devices using our device provisioner. Also, devices are location aware. This last weekend I stayed in the Encore Hotel in Las Vegas. There's an Echo in every room. You can walk into your room and say, Alexa, close the curtains. Sorry, the drapes. That's not what curtains are. Close the drapes, and the curtains in your room will shut. So each individual, they use this system, each individual device knows which room number it's in, and therefore which physical devices represent the curtains or the lights or the fan for that particular physical device. Actually, yeah.
What happens to the calendar update?
In what sense?
What's the best way to update without having still the previous? What's
So it's going to synchronize with Exchange in real time. Okay, so when you make a request, at the point at which you make the verbal request, there's a skill there which is reaching out to your Exchange API and getting your current details. Okay, so it's not going to cache a copy of the calendar on the device. The calendar is authoritative in the cloud. So each time you make a request about the calendar, that request will be sent to and from Exchange at that point in time. So there's no sync in the way that it works on your phone. It's real time. When you make a request, then a request goes to Exchange and pulls down the details and reads them back to you. Yeah. So who would use this? I would definitely use it. Then the next thing that we announced in Werner's keynote was something called the Serverless Application Repository in preview. This is an app store, can we call it that? A function store, maybe an app store, we're stretching it a little bit, a function store. Essentially, developers can place serverless applications in this repository, and once they've done that, they become discoverable for other users. So if I've got a really good chatbot backend or a system that I've written for allowing me to push records from Kinesis into a particular system of record, I could publish that application and make it available for other AWS customers to deploy directly within their own AWS account. Okay, and we use the serverless application model, or SAM, as an abstraction for packaging and deployment of these apps. It's in preview today. We're going to GA this later and make it available for more developers when we do so. But if you've got applications that you want to share, or applications that you potentially want to monetize that can be abstracted and represented in this way, this is a good opportunity and a good mechanism for you to find new users that might put your code to work, either as open source projects or in the future as licensed offerings. And then there were a few things that didn't make it into the keynote.
Would there be some sort of a governance on the code that goes in, because you don't want...
This is one of the reasons the service is not GA today. So we're working to deal with feedback like that at the moment.
For example, you can create young users or you want to create permissions that somebody can use. Yeah.
So you should verify what you're deploying, of course. Yeah.
The model is similar to the App Store of mobile phones, so every application must be validated before being included.
Yep. A few other things, okay? Amazon MQ, it's a managed service for Apache ActiveMQ. Okay, so for running large-scale, configurable message brokers within the AWS cloud with high availability and durability characteristics, enables customers to take out traditionally high-cost software components like IBM MQ or TIBCO and replace them with a much lower-cost managed service running in AWS with very, very simple migration. It's compatible today with several different protocols, and there's more to be added. Okay, more on the product detail page for that. And then something called AppSync, which allows you to operate GraphQL endpoints, again, under a fully managed service. And actually, there's already an open source project which somebody's created that represents the whole of the AWS API as a single GraphQL endpoint. Okay, so you can build and map and manage large-scale entity action collections under the GraphQL standard using this service. And it's intended principally for dynamically updated web and mobile apps. But of course, customers tend to put these services to use in other ways as well. And then we had a service called Amazon Guard Duty, which is a service that makes use of AI and machine learning to identify and alert upon anomalous activity within your AWS account. So an AI-powered threat detection service. This was announced by our CISO on Tuesday night at reinvent. And then finally, something called Amazon Sumerian, a completely new service area for us to provide a development tool chain for developers that want to build immersive AR and VR applications using AWS. So we provide an editor, and then we provide scriptable logic, as well as integrations with other AWS services. So these characters that you see, they can speak using Amazon Polly, and they can interact with you using Amazon Lex. So you can have a virtual character inside the real world or inside a fully immersive world that you have a conversation with, and that conversation is powered by an intelligent chatbot. You can also wire up entities in the virtual or mixed reality world and have actions on those entities trigger Lambda functions. So I could literally walk up to a virtual light bulb, light switch inside my AR VR environment, flick the virtual light switch and have a light turned on in the real world as a result of that by using a Lambda function, or anything else that a Lambda function can do. So we're integrating the VR, AR environment directly with AWS service primitives, which developers are already familiar with. And you're going to show us this, right? Yeah. You can use Amazon Cimmerian perpetually at low scale without ever hitting a charge. Okay, so the editor is actually free, and you only get charged for the amount of data which is stored to represent whatever scenes you have in the editor. So at low scale or at low usage, you'll have no charges to use the service.
Yeah, so let's have a quick look at Cimmerian. So this is a broad service, and connecting to what we were discussing before, I'm not an expert in VR, AR. I didn't become an expert in last week, but the idea is that if we need in some company to do a project, now there's this tool is very easy and integrable to integrate with AWS. So it's there ready to use. So I created just an empty scene with a Cimmerian host, and now we can see the result. So there's the whole graphical editor where you can add objects, and then as Ian said, you can connect this interaction that you have with object or people.
Hello, my name is Preston. I am a Cimmerian host. I can gesture while I speak. Some of my available gestures are wave, self, you, defense, 1, generic A, generic B, and generic C.
So now you know how to handle the gesture of a host. So you can link this to the voice. So you can use Polly, you can use Lex, so you can speak and get a feedback. And then you can link the gesture so that you can create a more normal experience. And this was literally a few clicks. So there's so much under the surface here, and probably people with more graphical skill can really enjoy. So here you have the full editor experience where we have lots of assets that you can use to build. And there was like a customer already took one of the virtual rooms that we have, connected the TV object inside the virtual room with a video stream, so that you can enter into the virtual room and watch the TV in the virtual or augmented reality setup. So this was very easy. The idea here is that you get JavaScript primitives, and you can embed this in a web page. You can embed this in a mobile application. You can export to Unity. So you can do lots of things with this environment. So this is Cimmerian, and let's say bye to him. Let's close it so that we see the whole experience. So let's see what we announced on Lambda. So just to give you an idea, for lots of services, there were lots of smaller announcements that for people using those services were really important. So for example, for Lambda, we completely revamped the console. So this is Lambda. You have this function here that is just reading and writing from DynamoDB. And this is the new console. So now with Lambda, you have these functions that we execute for you, and we scale, and we keep highly available. And you already see what are the triggers. In this case, the trigger is the API gateway, and then you can add multiple triggers. And you see also what resources this function has access to. So this function has access to DynamoDB and CloudWatch logs. So this is automatically understood by the role of the function, so that if you make a mistake in the role, you visually see here that you maybe gave access to something that this function shouldn't have access to. Here is the editor. That is a new editor because we embedded code 9 inside. So now you don't need to edit a single file. You can edit a whole archive, and you don't need to upload the zip file anymore. You can work with a hierarchy of files here. And this is the function that I mentioned that is just reading and writing from DynamoDB. So for example, what I can do here, I can just reload this function a few times. And this is writing. And for this function, here, I enabled a few things. So first of all, now we doubled the memory of Lambda functions. So you can give from 128 megabytes up to 3 gigabytes of memory. And when you go beyond 1.2 gigabytes, you get 2 cores. So you probably need to have maybe a better usage of the CPU resources of your function. So you can go multi-threading because you have 2 cores that you can use. We added the possibility to do canary deployment and to manage rollouts of new features. So if we go into the aliases, so for this function, I created 2 functions, an old release version 1 and a new release is version 2. So if we go here and we see the alias, I created a prod alias, and the prod alias is defined as 95% of the traffic goes to version 1, and then I start to roll out 5% of the traffic to version 2. You get the information in CloudWatch logs, and then you can do canary deployments. So you can manually manage the rollout here from one way to the other, but this is also integrated with SAM and with code deploy, where you have strategies such as canary deployment. You can say deploy 10% of the traffic. You can define alarms and monitoring Lambda function that if they go OK, then after some time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes that you define, you roll out the function automatically. If an alarm or a monitoring function fails, then you code deploy will roll back automatically. Or you can do a more gradual rollout like 10% every 15 minutes up to 100%, still with alarms and Lambda monitoring that can help you understand if everything is working, and then automatic rollback if you get a negative feedback by an alarm or a monitoring Lambda function. So it's very powerful. You shouldn't probably use it through the console, but look at code deploy that now can deploy Lambda functions, and SAM that has been extended. So in a text file, you can define this deployment strategy when you roll out an update. So 3 GB this, and the other thing is, okay, in monitoring, we already were integrated with X-Ray, our tracing application. So if I click here and I go on X-Ray, I should see that automatically we are building the service map of my application. So in this case, it was just a function, and you can see that we have this function running here. This is AWS Lambda that is invoking the Lambda function. As you can see, we don't see DynamoDB here, because to see DynamoDB, I need to embed the X-Ray SDK in my function so that it will understand also the calls that the Lambda function is doing outside. So let's do that. But to do that, normally, you need to add a package. So this is my function. Let's close it here. Let's go back to the latest. So this is my function. I need now to add a package. Normally, I need to install the package locally and upload the zip file. But now I can use Code9. So I can go here. I open Code9. I already created an environment. The environment can run on an EC2 instance that we start and stop automatically so that you don't pay when you don't use it. Or if you have a server anywhere with SSH, we can use your server as you prefer. Here you can collaborate with other users in your account. You can chat. You can synchronize, do pair programming, whatever you want. And we also can see the AWS resources. So I have here my function that is a remote function, and I can import the function in my environment. So now the function is installed locally in my environment here. And you see that's the file, and there's also the SAM template. This is automatically generated by our platform. And now I can go here. I can enter in the directory of the function. So it's environment. And I can run npm install. And this is the module I need. And now I'm installing in my environment. You see the node modules directory appeared here. And of course, this works for Java, Maven. It works for Python with pip or whatever. So now I have the node modules. I can uncomment the use of the X-Ray, the advanced use of the X-Ray SDK. So now I use the X-Ray SDK to wrap the AWS SDK. So any call of the AWS SDK will be intercepted and monitored. I save. And then I take my function, and if I want, I can also debug. So I can add here a break. And then I can say, OK, run this function locally. I enable the debugger. I run. And now we are Of course, there is no package JMS here, but you can really debug your function locally. We're using semlocal. So, of course, you can manage calls to external services, but you can run everything local. So probably, I don't know what's the error here. Let's close it. And since I want to roll out a new version, I can just deploy this local function remotely. And then we can go back. Let's reload the console. And now if I click here, I have the new version of my function with the node modules and the new rollout. So if I go here and I reload my function a few times, now this is going through the new X-Ray SDK. And if I go here, we probably need like 1 second for the new trace events to arrive. And of course, during the demo time, it's always taking 1 minute more. OK, it's now computing the map. And if everything worked, now we should see that there is the Lambda function calling DynamoDB, and I have also the DynamoDB. OK, so that was all. I think we can ask. You get any questions?
Yeah? About what they've seen?
There are very few announcements. Yeah?
Thank you. I don't have a fully technical program. I'm curious, is there a buffer when there is the instance processing of the data and having the nodes and the space to do that? If there is suddenly an increase on the data log, is there a buffer? Will it stop processing, or will it be elastic to increase the size?
You mean for virtual servers like Amazon EC2?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have multiple features. The most common one is the auto-scaling. So you can choose the size of the instance, and then with auto-scaling, you can grow and shrink depending on the load. So add and remove servers. So that's something that you can do. If you use Lambda service that is fully managed, we do that completely transparently. Actually, there was another feature of Lambda that I forgot to show, that is the possibility now to manage concurrency at function level. So normally, you could manage concurrency only at account and region level. So every account usually has 1,000 of concurrent execution. If you go beyond that, you can ask us to increase this limit. But lots of customers, especially from the enterprise world that are used to do things like connection pooling, they wanted to have functions that don't scale too much, because maybe they are reading or writing from a database, so they don't want to have more than 100 functions connected to a database. Now you can manage this concurrency level at function level and say, I want to pre-allocate 100 of my concurrency level to this function, so that I know that it will not grow more than 100 concurrent executions. And you can do that in lots of use cases when you don't want to have, when you want to create a bottleneck because the backend resources are not capable of auto-scaling.
Hi, I've got a question about Amazon Transcribe. I just wonder if you have any, if there are any claims made or any data about the accuracy and what kind of error rates that we could expect using that.
I don't know is the answer to the question. I would suggest 2 things. Check the product detail page, because there may be. But of course, test with your own data.
Yeah, what we did, we trained the model with noisy environment, and it has been specifically trained also for low bit rate like phone calls. So one of the use cases we talk a lot is call centers, where most call centers already record all the call that they get. So now you can have very easily build a chain where you have the phone calls recorded, and then you use transcribe to create the text, and then you can use comprehend to do sentiment analysis. Comprehend can understand different, transcribe can understand the different voices, so you can have comprehend understand the sentiment of the 2 people speaking in the call, and then understand if the agent of the other person is positive or negative.
There is speaker identification in transcribe.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's something that we are going also to enhance in the future. So
you can use this in...
I will be the first to do the test, so if he understands my Italian accent, then everything will work.
You can use it, of course, in that same context for things like compliance monitoring in financial services. You know, there's a call there where certain phrases were not present. That might result in you flagging that call for review. That's quite a common use case in contact center in finance, of course. Yeah.
Hi. You mentioned about integration of ActiveMQ. How is it different from Kinesis service?
From what, sorry?
ActiveMQ, you
From
mentioned
Kinesis.
that.
Oh, okay. So ActiveMQ is intended for enterprise replacement use cases. So I've got a message bus within my enterprise where I'm passing messages in several different formats. I might be doing message or protocol transcoding or conversion as part of the messaging protocol. Kinesis is a stream that just deals with whatever blobs of data you put into it. So whatever you put in, you will get out again when you read the record, unless you have a Lambda function or something which is attached to do conversions. With ActiveMQ, there's quite a big body of knowledge out in the industry and in the marketplace for people that already work with the products inside the same kind of use cases that I'm talking about, and they know how to use the product for these protocol or message translation use cases. So that's the difference. Yeah. Kinesis is going to be much, much more scalable than even the largest ActiveMQ cluster, but it's not as smart, doesn't have the message interchange capabilities.
Yeah, and if you start a new project, probably you would go with SQS or SNS.
Yeah.
But if you work with an enterprise customer that already invested in that area with those protocols, then this is a very easy way to lift and shift, but have a fully managed service and then eventually evolve the service in the future.
Yeah.
Hi, just wanted to follow up on the transcribe question. So first of all, is it doing language detection, and can you give any insight as to what the sort of roadmap is in terms of language support?
Good question. It's English and Spanish.
Yeah, I
right
think
now.
we only said that we are going to add more languages,
Yeah.
like we're going to do with
But
Translate.
We do have within Comprehend sophisticated language detection capabilities there. So you could assess a piece of text with Comprehend, actually has broader language support and can detect a large number of languages. I think 98 is the number which comes to mind. So it can detect with accuracy whether you have an English or Spanish input text and then feed that into translate rather. Or sorry, into transcribe, sorry. And then you could bucket the rest of languages which are not English or Spanish for manual translation or manual transcribing. Okay, so you can have a multi-step pipeline where you first of all assess what language you have and then treat that in different ways depending on service support that we have behind it.
That seems a little bit backwards.
Yeah, you need the text.
That seems a little backwards because you need to transcribe it first. So is the
No, we can do broader language detection with Comprehend than we can with the transcription service. So if you put Comprehend at the front of the pipeline, you'll then be able to detect both the supported languages and classify non-supported languages accurately. No, it's not good if you're starting with speech, no, but if you're starting with text.
Sorry, the assumption was starting with speech, yes.
No, if you're starting with text, that pipeline works. But yeah, for speech, it's English and Spanish only today.
Will it tell which is which?
I don't know the answer to that, actually. I'm not sure. Do you know?
Yeah, no, I don't know if this is auto-discovery. One thing that we stress is that these are fully managed services that are going to improve over time. So that's now they are in preview. So it's when we discover what customers are going to do with these services, and then every day it will be better.
Another question?
The debugging, how did you resolve it? I mean, briefly, did you optimize or did you exclude it?
So the bank. So we released during the summer. This feature is called SAM Local. It's possibility to run Lambda function and emulate the API gateway locally, and you can use that. But this is also integrated with Cloud9. So with Cloud9, when you import a function from Lambda into your own environment, then you can run the local debugging. Of course, it's local. So if you call DynamoDB, it's not local anymore. But you can emulate API gateway and Lambda function that is normally 90% of what a traditional web developer is doing, and it's a good way to start understanding the code before you push it. Another advantage of Cloud9 is it's in the same network as Lambda. So if you notice, when I pushed the function from Cloud9 to Lambda, the upload was almost instantaneous. So you don't have the problem of uploading a zip file from your location to Lambda.
Great. Any other questions? So can you repeat that question?
Sorry, the question was, do we know when Aurora Multimaster is going to be out of preview? And the answer is no. But you should sign up for the preview. And then once you sign up for it, you can get under an NDA, and then you can ask the team. There's an SA sitting down at the front. I'm just checking. This is the protocol. Once you have the NDA, you can then ask your assigned SA for more detail on the dates, and they'll normally share it under the NDA.
Yeah, we shared a little bit more information on Aurora Serverless, where we said that in the first half of next year, we want to bring the MySQL engine to be production ready, and in the second half, we want to focus on Postgres. And to be production ready, I mean the GA of the service.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Just before we congratulate these folks, I'd just
If
like
you
to...
have questions that haven't been answered,
Yeah.
it's ianm@amazon.com and Danilo P@amazon.com. You can email us anytime. Okay.
Ian actually landed from the west coast of America, from Vegas. He flew over Vegas, landed last night, yeah? And he's here tonight with jet lag. So come on, a round of applause, absolutely.
This is actually the third year on the spin when I've done that, by the way, but don't tell anyone about it.
You don't get used to it, honestly. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Finally, look, you've got to be here to win it. We have a prize, which is a Nintendo Switch. Woohoo! Right. Now, can we have...
The Van Gogh style of what the camera is seeing. So we can broadcast this with Van Gogh's style. So this is artistic style transfer in almost real time.
Okay, Danilo, do you want to pick out? Or Ian, go on, Danilo. Okay. Who's the lucky? There's my glasses.
George Pablos.
Way. Oh, congratulations, George. And listen, thank you so much. Look, the best part of the evening is downstairs, networking, food, drink, the works. Please head downstairs, have a fantastic Christmas, and we will see you in the new year. Bye-bye.